Hey you guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today you're getting our final review of The Simulation from Born of Osiris. Alright guys, so after a full week of listening to this album on full rotation, non-stop, lots and lots and lots, I gotta say that I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. My first impressions were pretty good. It was kind of down the middle, I would say, but I'd say more good than bad. Whatever, I guess that's not down the middle. But as the week went on and I listened to it more and more and more, I didn't find I was getting bored of it. I found that I was finding little things in the songs here and there that were appealing to me more and more, and I was pleasantly surprised. Now, normally when I do my listening throughout the week for different albums, I tend to stick with that same album throughout the whole week and just grind it to death if I can. This one I did take a break here and there and listen to some other stuff, mostly because I was listening to it on Spotify, and when the album was over, you know, it just continues to play through other songs. Sometimes I just let it play through for like however long. So I did listen to other things throughout the week. Maybe that helped, you know, subdue the fatigue factor a little bit.
Yeah.
But overall, even for a short album, I felt like this one withstood the test of time.
Yeah, and I think with that method it really helps because this is only 25 minutes. Like,
it's a short album.
It's tough for the test of time. That's a little bit scary, but I guess for you it worked out.
Right. So I don't know, what are your thoughts after listening to it for a week?
You know, I'm really glad that this album stuck with me the way it did, because I say that it also passed the test of time for me. I was a bit worried after our first impressions that, oh man, this is a 25-minute long album, I hope I don't get sick of it. But I never really felt myself disliking anything. I just put it on, was enjoying all the songs, like nothing grew stale. There was no fatigue, I found. Yeah. I could just keep putting this album on and enjoy it, like every single time. So, but this album, man, I think this is like such a high point for this band right now. Because from what I noticed, this album is a little bit more reflective of their older style, like their earlier albums, which is a lot more aggressive, in your face, and I just felt like the chops from all these musicians flying at your face, like how technically proficient these guys are. It really drills it right into your head, and like that's constantly there, over and over. I would just like to make a comment about recursion. After listening to it throughout the week, you know, on my phone, there was no like issue with it flowing into analog to the cell. That was just an issue on our first impression. Yeah, in our first impressions video we talked about, there was I guess a glitch or something like that, where recursion track 5 didn't flow into the next song. There was like an abrupt stop. Yeah. But that, for some reason, we don't know why it happened, but that was just on our first listen. Anytime we listened to it after that, it definitely flowed, so we take back that comment. That was, it happened though, like we were listening to it for the first time and that's what happened, so it must have been a glitch somehow, I don't know. Yeah, it's unfortunate. That being said, it's a really nice transition. It's not bad. It's not bad. It doesn't, I feel like it goes earlier than you would expect it. Whenever I listen to that track, it jumps into the next song before I think, and it always kind of gives me a little kick, like, oh yeah, right, starting now.
I like it. It's smooth, it's definitely smooth. But I still feel like recursion is an unnecessary track. Perhaps it could be a little bit more fruitful. It kind of feels a little bit too ambient for a good chunk of it before it starts picking up and then carrying into the next song. Speaking of ambience, I would like to comment on the use of keyboard on this album. I guess throughout this band in total, but it's one thing that I kept noticing is that a lot of bands use keyboard as just ambience, but I found this band uses keyboard a lot as leads. They use it as leads in some of the choruses, they use it as leads in some of the verses, they use it as leads during some of the soloing. I was trying to pinpoint, it's really hard to tell what, like sometimes when you're listening to what's guitar and what's piano or what's keyboard, really hard to pinpoint the exact sound. So I was trying to find if there was any point where the keyboard was actually part of the rhythm section. I think it was in certain points here and there, but I wasn't sure, so I don't really want to emphasize that. But still, the use of keyboard and just where they place it, I thought was very cool. If I had to nitpick about it a little bit, and this is something I say about a lot of bands that use keyboard, is that I wish they would change the tones up a little bit, because you got a keyboard that has like thousands of different sounds it can make, right? And I feel like they just should change it up a little more just to make each song sound a little different, which is one of my gripes with this album, is that even though each song kind of has their own identity,
they still all kind of sound very similar to me, overall.
Yeah, I feel it's just a case of a very similar mix. Everything kind of just has the same tones, but I feel, you know, the organization of such is still really good. Like, if you compare a song like Disconnect Tone to a song like One Without the Other, you'll feel a lot of difference between them.
You will, and that's what I'm saying. They have their identity, but overall, as an overall package, they're all using the same tones, the same, you know, vocal styles, just very similar altogether. But speaking of individual tracks, were there any tracks that kind of stood out or screamed out at you in a positive way?
It's hard to say because none of them were bad. You know, nothing really. There was a lot of small moments in a lot of these songs that kind of jumped out at me. Like, you know, I think it was in Silence the Echo, like you hear this weird kind of clanging happening during, I think it was like the verse. It's hard to recall, but it's like a lot of really background noises. There's a lot of space filled up with this whole album.
It's a very full sounding band.
Yeah. And that, I think, gives it a lot of replay value because you're going to hear a lot of different things popping up like, wow, what was that? I never heard this before.
Exactly.
Something so subtle.
That's exactly why the album didn't get boring throughout the week, because I keep noticing these little things. If I had to pick some tracks that stood out to me, though, there's actually 3 tracks that stood out to me more than the rest. Cycles of Tragedy, which was my favorite track based off the first impression. I still think that's a great track. Probably still one of my top tracks on the album. But the following track, Under the Gun, track number 4, is also really good. And I'm glad those 2 tracks are back to back because I feel like they flow really nicely into each other. They complement each other on the album. Very well done. Furthermore, Silence the Echo, which you just mentioned, is also a very nice track. I like the arrangement of the song. The chorus is really cool. There's this cool little like the guitar riff. I don't know if you can call it the riff, but it's maybe part of the riff. But it's just like a little, I don't even know, but it's got a little pinch harmonic squealed into there, which is cool. You know, so I like that kind of stuff.
About Under the Gun, though, I did mention last week I thought that song was a not as good version of Cycles of Tragedy, the song before it, but after listening to it for a whole week, I kind of see them both as equal. Like, it's not like one is just a not so great version of the other. Like, they're both definitely solid.
Exactly.
Like, it's all really good. But
Under the Gun definitely grew on me too. Like first impressions, that song kind of just felt basically just like an average blessed song, like nothing special, nothing bad, just right there.
Yeah.
But as the week went on, I think vocally, it started standing out a little more amongst the other tracks because I think the secondary vocalist, who I think is also the keyboard, correct me if I'm wrong, but he has a little bit more prominent role in that song. I think that contrast of him and the main vocalist going back and forth was a little bit more appealing.
Yeah, if there's anything to take away about this album, at least for me, is that the riffs are amazing. Like, everything is so catchy but so enjoyable, and it did not get stale at all. And I feel like this is a huge step up from the last few albums, which I checked out, and they just don't feel the same riff-wise. It doesn't catch me as much. So that's a huge plus for this album in regards to that.
True. Yeah, I don't know. What about you think we should get to ratings?
I think so. What do you rate the Simulation?
All right. Well, I like the album. You know, I think it's good from beginning to end. I have my gripes here and there. But here's the thing. I want to give this album a 7. That's what I want to give this album. However, we've been informed that this is only half of the album.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's a double album.
This is, 8 tracks. It's very short, 25 minutes long. Basically, it's half an album. It's half the length of an album. It's half the price of an album. So the fact that the second half of the album is coming out in the future, I don't feel like I should rate this album as a full album. So my score for this album is going to be a 3.5. I'm cutting my score in half. And basically, what I'm gonna do is when the second part comes out, I will rate that as well, cut it in half, and then I'll add those 2 halves together, and we'll see at that point if it deserves a toe tag.
It's very interesting, very, very understandable, and I'm gonna do the same thing here with the Simulation as well. Now, this album would get a toe tag from me, straight up. I thought this album was fucking sick, and I loved it, and it's such a good point for this band. So, to cut it in half, I'm gonna have to give this album a 4, as weird as that sounds. Giving this album a 4, but as Vile said, this is only half. So in the future, when the second part of the simulation releases, we're gonna review that, we're gonna rate it in half, and then we're gonna combine it with our scores from today to see if it deserves a toe tag from each of us.
Correct.
We've never done a double album before on the channel, so this is brand new for us.
Brand new for us, but we're trying to think of how do we do this, how do we rate this, and this is how we're doing it. So, yeah, that's it for the video, man. So leave your comments below, let us know what you guys think of the simulation. Did you guys like it as much as we did? Do you have any gripes with it? What were your favorite songs? All that jazz. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel, because we got lots of metal content coming for you all the time. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
We'll see you guys very soon.